Patch management is another vital tool within the BCM product, and it's what a lot of our organizations are using to make sure that their patches are up to date and being taken care of. We have a wizard for that, so we'll go ahead and go on our wizards, our patch service pack distribution wizard here. Now we're presented with two options here when we first log in. One is a patch job. Patch job is going to be something we're going to run time and time again. This is something we want to check and go through. And then we also have a patch group. So that's where we're going to take individual patches or even a service pack and assign them to devices. And this is not the automatic patching that patch job is, but it gives us the ability to push out a patch group. So we'll start with the patch job first. And so the first thing is the repository location. You can see it's grayed out because we need to have the one repository, one place that we're putting it, which is going to be our master here. And we can add patches to this patch job. We just call this new patch job, but if we wanted to add to a previous one, we could select that there. And here's some of our deployment options. It's either preferences or let me configure them. And I'm just going to go ahead and let me configure them so we can walk through what the preferences are. We'll go ahead and click next. All right, so this is where we're able to define some of the deployment options. For instance, is there something that needs to be done pre-installation? In here, we can display this message to a customer saying we are about to install your patches. If we leave this blank, then our default message will appear. And that default message you will be able to see is basically your computer is about to be updated. You know, just very technical. But if you want something more user specific, this is where you put it in here. If we allow them to use the countdown timer, we can give them 5 seconds, 10 seconds, however you want to increment that, or give them the countdown to acknowledge. 5 seconds might be too short. We could put in 30 seconds here. And are we going to let them increment? So this is saying, yes, I need to wait. Here's what we need to do. So we'll go ahead and put the timer, and we'll just leave it at 1 minute and 2 minutes. Right. Once installation has happened, or is going to happen, what are we going to push at? What's the job going to do? So default is we're going to do the severity of critical, important, medium, high, whatever we want to. So we'll do critical, important. And we can do security patches, non-security patches, or security tools. So this really falls into how the vendor publishes what kind of patches that they're using and they're going to push out. Most of them are going to be security patches, but if we want to make certain, we could do non-security patches too. And we can say, is it for the full list of products, or are we only going to patch specific products? So here you get to see the list of all the products that we offer. It's all the way down from Adobe all the way through to Zimbra. So a lot of stuff that's currently used, some not so much, like Yahoo Messenger, things like that. But we could go through and say, hey, 7-zip, we want Adobe. We want to maybe do CC Cleaner, Firefox, Internet Explorer, you know, whatever we feel we want to put in this patch job, not in a group, but in a patch job. So something that we want it to do automatically. Go ahead and hit next. And this is where we're able to define certain things like wake up a device. So if we've using power management, we've set the devices to sleep, we can go ahead and wake them up and define a specific deployment schedule. So this is the second Wednesday, which we're fine with. We can say only deploy only during this time. And we can say from start would be 8 p.m. By default, this is no end time because it can take a certain amount of time, especially if we're using relays to pull this information down and we're using throttling our bandwidth connection. It could take a little bit longer than normally, so we can say no end time, or we can say we have a specific change window at 12. It's 8 p.m. to 12. So if it doesn't finish then it's going to wait till the next deployment schedule to deploy these out. And then the other thing here is we can say allow files to be downloaded to devices prior to start time, which I would recommend, because especially if we're setting a very finite window, 4 hours, we want everything to be ready on that device as much as we can before we run this. If not, if we allow do not download files prior, then there's going to be some maybe bandwidth issues, but it also might be, your corporate policy to not download some of these things prior to. We give you that flexibility to define that. Go ahead and click on next. Need to assign it to either device group. So we can assign it to all devices, or we can say specifically to our Discover devices and click OK. Or we can assign it to specific devices as well. So maybe we have a device that's not in there, that's this laptop. We can go ahead and OK. So we have the ability to put both in. Go ahead and hit Finish. Now what we're going to do is it's going to go through, it's going to look for this patch job. We called it New Patch Job. It's going to look through, it's going to see if there's any patches to download and install. And you can see that there's some pending, and then once it's ready to, it's going to install those for us. And we can check on that later. So let's take a look at doing a patch group. So we'll go back into our wizard and bring this up, and we'll select patch group. We'll see some of the options and walk through that there. All right, so you can see now our whole list of options and menu is changed here. And we can then say, do we want this to be an automatic deployment, similar to what we've had before, or do we want to configure the rules for this customized deployment? So automatic's easier. We'll do the configuration here. We can do bulletins only, patches only, or service packs only. So for each type, we can define that. And then we can do service packs by products, or we can actually go for certain ones. And as you can see that it's pulled up these service packs or these patches that are available. So I could do all, or I could do specific. This is where I could do specific products. So I could say for Adobe, I want the critical. So there's the Adobe and the criticals, and we can select which patches we want to put in there. We can do specific start dates and end dates. We don't have to define those, but if we do, then there is a start and a stop with those. Click on Next. One patch to deploy, we'll do the Adobe Reader. Add that. Sorry, I need to add that in there. So this is going to show me my patches now that it's ready to deploy in the group. Of course, we could add more in if we wanted to. Go ahead and click Next. All right, so at this point, we could define a patch group or use an existing patch group. So if we haven't created one before, we'll go ahead and create one now. We'll call this our Adobe patch group. And this is where we can, similar to the other one, we can define a group. We'll go ahead and just select all devices here, or put in specific device. And now this is where we can define, we want to select all patches or only select patches for that current device, or select all patches. But this is what it's going to download. And if there's specific languages, most people will just use the US English, but if you have specific other groups, this is where using the device groups selected earlier might come in handy, where you don't want to download all the patch languages, but you have like we have the Spanish one, you would select your Spanish group and then assign only this Spanish patch language for. It's going to come up and say, these are the list of patches to download. We'll go ahead and hit OK. And similar to previously, we can say about to install patches if we want them to extend some of those same parameters we have there. Installation parameters, we can do this in quiet mode so they don't see what's going on. If there's a stop on error, we can have it stop. We can have it report us what the error is. Do we want to lock out their mouse or their keyboard on the screen? Do we want to make sure that those things don't happen? What about rebooting? If we want to go ahead and reboot, we'll go ahead and reboot after deployment. And we can display some dialog to them as well. And there's more options, of course, come out when we select that. We can schedule it. We'll go ahead and just let this schedule because we've gone through the schedule, and hit Finish. And now it's going to go and patch that through. So you can see patching is rather simple and easy to do. It's understanding what we want to patch, what we want to put, what products we want to patch, what we want to apply to that patch, and when we want to run it. So patch job is when we want to run something over and over, but if there's a specific patch we want to run right now to a specific product or to all products, we would do the patch group.